Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for joining today. This is the third time we have done this Zoomcast this month. We had a great response the first two times, so hopefully you will enjoy it today. If you don't have your camera on, we'd love it if you put your camera on so we can see your smiley, happy faces. That's what I want to see, your smiley, happy faces. My name is Robert Crowder. I'm going to be your presenter today, and one of them anyway. In other words, I do most of the talking. On behalf of all of us from the Benefits Trust, we'd like to take this opportunity to thank you very much for joining. And joining us today from the Benefits Trust, Carrie Lane is in the house. Mike Ignatz is here, and Rob Crowder, my son, is working behind the scenes, making sure that everything runs smoothly. If you have a question throughout today, or a comment, or you think I'm crazy, or you want to add something, put your little hand emoji up. It'll pop up on the screen. We'll see it, and we'll be able to get to you. Additionally, or put it in the chat box. Put your question in the chat box because that way Mike or Rob or Carrie can answer it, but everybody can see the question and concern that you might have, and they'll give you some explanation on that. For signing up for today, Mike is going to send you a CE credit. He's going to send you the slide deck and some other things as well. We've got 101 great questions to ask. As well as that, you're going to get signed up for our Trusted Advisor newsletter. If you don't already receive that, you will be receiving that. But most importantly, or as importantly, you're going to get a real short survey. Tell us how we did today and how we can do it better tomorrow. As well as that, you're going to give us some feedback on what future subjects you'd like to see covered. So, with that in mind, let's get started. And again, we appreciate you guys being here, and we're going to spend an hour together. And today we're going to talk about, hold on a second, let me just adjust this. Today we're going to talk about, what's the hurt? Understanding the real hurt in employee benefit plans. So, what we're going to cover today is, hold on a second, let me just get this so I can advance. What we're going to cover today is a little bit about the Benefits Trust, not because we want to give you a commercial, which we do, but not really. But it's just sort of where we're coming from in this presentation. We want to talk about identifying the real hurt. We want to talk about why employers look to change a benefit plan or provider or advisor. Surface issues to true motivation. Creating urgency and clarity, which I think is an important part of this presentation today, transitioning to meaningful solutions, and then, of course, questions, answers, and discussions. I want to remind everybody, if you've got a question throughout the presentation today, put your hand emoji up or throw it in the chat box so everybody can see. This is the first time we've done this Zoomcast specifically on this particular topic. As I mentioned, we did it earlier this week and late last week, but it's an interesting subject. We've had really good response to it, and I hope that you guys we got our fingers crossed that you guys will enjoy it as well. But one thing that I'm saying is the word hurt is real, and I've used it a lot in my career, and I've been doing this since 1988. We started the Benefits Trust in 1994, and I've used it a lot, and it works. So it's proven. So a little bit about the Benefits Trust. We started, as I mentioned, on January 1st, 1994. So we've been around for some time, 32 years now. We are a full service third-party benefit administration company, or TPA. In our business, we use a lot of TLAs, three-letter acronyms. But we are the largest independently owned TPA in Canada. In 2024, we were named the top benefit provider. In 2024 and 2025, we were named as well as the top or as a top employer, according to our friends at Benefit and Pension Monitor magazine. And in 2025, just late last year, we won a five-star technology award, according to our friends at Benefit and Pension Monitor magazine, because of our app and how easy it is to use and intuitive it is, and so on. We provide custom employee benefit solutions to end user clients. We have exceptional client experience because that's what our clients have told us. That's not just what we say, it's what our clients have told us. We did a survey some time ago, and we had over 95% of our clients say we provide exceptional client experience. And something that we're very proud of and something that is important to us to continue. We've got long-term relationships with all the major Canadian insurance carriers and service suppliers, so we're not tied to any one particular company. And our target market is advisors like you. We work directly with advisors like you with clients from 1 to 100 employees. And the reason why we work with that size company is, quite frankly, in Ontario alone, there's 450,000 businesses with 1 to 100 employees. So you know what? That's why we work there, because there's just endless prospects. And you think about it, 450,000 businesses, and if you get 25 more businesses in the next 2 or 3 years, is that a good run? Absolutely. So that's what sort of where we're coming from. We do work with a lot of clients that are larger than 100 employees, quite a few as a matter of fact. But again, our target market is working with professional advisors like yourself in that 1 to 100 market size. So, fact, just to start things off, fact, most employers don't think about their benefit plan for more than a few minutes a year. It's as simple as that. They're busy polishing the widgets that they polish, or they're building the widgets that they build, or servicing the widgets that they service. But it was really interesting when I was first started out in this business. I was working with this particular client for a couple of years, and I walked into this particular client's office, and he goes, "Surprise! Oh, you're bad news with a briefcase," because we were there to talk about his renewal. That's how he viewed us. And I remember that, and we kind of joked about that. But, it made me think that most employers don't think about their employee benefit programs. You and I do. We think about employee benefit programs all the time, or I certainly do, because that's 100% of our business. And I think about I think about benefit plans, how we can do it better, how we can do all these wonderful things, but I think about it all the time. But employers don't think about it at all, or they think about it for 30 minutes a year. They're busy doing other things. It's not top of their mind. And again, they look at us as potentially bad news with a briefcase. That's how they look at us. So keeping that in mind, what's the hurt? Or what is the hurt? What is the hurt? And when we were putting these slide presentations together, we went to our friends at AI, and we went to our friends at Google, and this is the definition that comes up. The hurt is a specific pain, problem, or a risk a person or an organization is experiencing that creates urgency to change. Creates urgency to change. What do we want as advisors? We want to find clients, and we want clients to have an urgency to change something, because that's where we can shine and create value. It's not the surface issue, it's the impact that actually matters. The impact of the hurt is what prompts people to change, right? And when we think about a business, that we're dealing with, right? Because we're here to talk about employee benefits, and we're dealing with businesses as opposed to individuals, right? The individuals make up the business, but businesses can be hurt in a couple of different ways. They can experience hurt financially. They can experience hurt reputationally. They can experience hurt emotionally. The people inside can experience hurt emotionally, and they can experience hurt from a legal perspective, right? But that's how businesses can be hurt: financially, reputationally, emotionally, legally. So let's keep that in mind when we're talking about hurt. But what's hurt? It's simple. People don't like getting hurt. Does anybody here like getting hurt? No. People don't like getting hurt. Once they get hurt, they're going to find a way to let it not happen again. It's interesting. It's January in Southern Ontario. There's a lot of snow, and it's continuing to snow. And people get hurt in the wintertime. They get hurt more in the wintertime than they do potentially in the summertime. They slip and fall on the ice. They slip and fall on stairs. But it's interesting. Here's this gentleman or lady, I don't know what it is, but falling down the stairs, all right, in this particular slide. Well, great. You're going to do that once, and then you're going to find a solution for it not to hurt, or to eliminate the risk. You're going to shovel the snow. You're going to put the ice melter on it, right? And you're going to put on boots with spikes on your feet so it doesn't happen again. But our job is, as advisors, is to understand the client and identify the hurt. Our job is to say, hey, you know what? We need to come up with a solution that the stairs aren't covered in snow anymore, because you don't want to fall down those stairs. But it's simple. People don't like getting hurt. Once they get hurt, they're going to find a way to make sure that it doesn't happen again. Think of your last purchase. Think of your last purchase. What was the last thing that you purchased? Major purchase. I'm not talking about a loaf of bread or a trip to Costco. I think, what's your last major purchase? What was the hurt that you had that drove that decision to make that purchase? Think about the last time you bought a car. You wanted a car with more space or less space. You wanted a car that went faster, or went through the snow better. Uh, reliability was the hurt because your old car was breaking down. Vacation, it's a mental health. I need to have this. It's family time. It's time with my partner. It's, whatever it is. Great vacation time is important. Or I bought a new home. I just remember when we were putting the slide together quite a few years, 25 years ago, as a matter of fact, I found out that we were having our third child, and I said, our house isn't big enough. We got to find a new house. We got to find a new home to live in. We just don't have enough space. And we decided to renovate our home, but it was a $100,000 renovation at that point in time, and we did an extension on it. But that was a major purchase. And the hurt was we didn't have enough space. The house was fine. We just didn't have enough space. So we had to change that. Or the last time you hired a new accountant or changed lawyers, right? Or hired a trade to come in to fix the leaky roof or fix the leaky taps or whatever it is. You know, Major purchases, major decisions, you've got a hurt behind them. Me, and again, when putting together the slide, we live in Huntsville, Ontario, and we built a garage. We just finished building this garage, and it's a beautiful garage that we built, and we're really happy with it. But we've been planning this for some years now, 2 years, I think, and it took 6 months to build this particular garage. But the hurt was emotional. We didn't need it. We could brush off the snow, and we can get into a cold car. We've been doing it all our lives, but it was really an emotional hurt. There was something missing. We really wanted to do this because we wanted to, get into a warm car. But more importantly than that, we wanted to have a place where we could have a workshop, where I could have a workshop. And my wife likes to garden, so she could have all of her gardening stuff, organized and put away nicely, so when she can enjoy her gardening more. So it was really emotional hurt that we had when we were building that garage and the reasons why we built that garage. It wasn't anything other than that. So think about your last major purchase again. And what was the hurt behind it? What was the hurt? And then look at your business. Look internally at your business because everybody here is an independent. The majority of the people that are here are independent, independent business owners. And what's the hurt in your business? Is it prospecting? Is it client communication? Is it AI? Is it new product knowledge? Because there's new products coming onto the marketplace every single day. Is it continuing education because your license is renewing in the next 2 months or whatever it is? Is it cash flow? At the Benefits Trust, us, I'm peek behind the curtain, right? What I think our biggest hurt is right now, or my biggest hurt is feeding the machine, right? Our biggest hurt is prospecting. We need profitable growth. We need to continue to have profitable growth. We've built this amazing infrastructure. We've got an office. We've got, 40 some odd employees. We got to keep those folks busy, right? We've got to continue to shine and we got to continue to grow. Profitable growth is what our biggest hurt is right now. But what's the biggest hurt in your business, right? Because that's going to drive change in your business. If you have a hurt, it's going to drive the change in your business. The other thing is hurts change over time. Quite frankly, a number of years ago, cash flow was a big hurt in our business, without a doubt. But why employers review benefit plans, why they review suppliers, whether it be the company that's providing the service or the advisor, why do they do this? Well, there's an administrative burden, yeah, potentially cost uncertainty, employee complaints, and I always say, there's always employee complaints after a holiday season. Whether it be the Christmas holiday season or the summer holiday season, because employees go to parties and they talk to people and they go, "Oh my gosh, I just got these new great glasses and my benefit plan paid for everything." And then they go, "My benefit plan doesn't have vision care." So they go and complain, right? Renewal pressures. Your bad news with a briefcase. You come up, they think about their benefit plan for 30 minutes a year. And all of a sudden they know this renewal is coming up, and how does that affect in their budgeting exercise? Poor service. As Canadians, oh my God, I was riding up a chairlift yesterday afternoon with a few people, and I was listening to their conversation because you're sitting on the chairlift for about 10 minutes and you're listening to this conversation, and they were talking about dealing with, I think, TELUS. And they were complaining about the service they received from TELUS, and they go, the other person on the chairlift, their friend or whoever they were, said, "Well, what do you expect? It's just a big company. You get poor service from, the telecommunication companies. You get poor service from the insurance companies. You get poor service from the banks." And it's just, we accept that kind of stuff. But a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of business owners that provide great service really are becoming less and less tolerant of poor service. But are these the real problems? Is this the real hurt? I don't think so. I think those are symptoms, but I don't think it's the real hurt. It reminded me when I saw this slide and we were, putting the notes together for this presentation, it reminded me of a quote that I heard years and years and years ago. I think I heard the quote from my dad, but the quote is, "No one ever got fired for cheating on their expense account. No one ever got fired for cheating on their expense account, but that's why they got fired." Think about it. No one ever got fired for cheating on their expense account, but that's why they get fired. They get fired for other reasons because they're not good at their job, whatever it is, and they're looking for an excuse to fire that person. And they go, "Hey, we found some irregularities in your expense account, and that's why we're terminating your employment." But you got an employee that's a great employee and doing a great job, and bringing in new business, or you know providing great service, whatever it is. Oh, so what? They cheat on their expense account. No one really cares because they've got results. So no one ever got fired for cheating on their expense account, but that's why they get fired. So when we think about employee benefits, when a client either fires you or fires the supplier, it might be for these surface reasons, but there's deeper reasons below the surface. So the real question is, what pushes the employers over the edge to take action? What's their breaking point? And the answers are going to surprise you. Sometimes they're big things, sometimes they're really small things. It can be a claim denial for the wrong person at the wrong time. It could be a lack of timely response. This is a big one, a lack of timely response, or strictness in the plan design or processes. One thing I know is successful business owners hate when somebody says no to them, and they think it's reasonable, but someone says no. Lack of a timely response. I've been trying to deal with this small problem for 3 weeks now, and I can't get anyone to respond to me. I've been dealing with this for 3 weeks and I can't find anybody to respond to me. So lack of timely response. At the Benefits Trust, one thing we do is have timely responses. We bust our butt to make sure that people get timely responses. So all of a sudden, when somebody, takes them 3 weeks to get back to me on something, I get really pissed off. Right? I get really upset about that. And if it's a service that I'm buying and they're taking 3 or 4 weeks to get back to me, it's not acceptable. Claim denial. I remember years ago, I was working, I had met this client, and we were in the number two position. They didn't want to make any changes at that time. And all of a sudden, we got this frantic phone call, and they said, "We need you to come in. We need you to take over our benefit plan, and we need you to do it ASAP." And I said, "Fantastic." And we met with these folks, and I said, "What changed?" And it was really simple. It was during the time, again, many years ago, but I've never forgot the story. But the employer, it was during the time when OHIP delisted vision care exams. Vision care exams used to be covered by OHIP, and then all of a sudden, in OHIP's wisdom, they delisted vision care exams. And the client wanted everybody to have access to vision care exams, so he talked to the insurance company rep that he was dealing with and said, "Hey, we want to make sure this is covered." So the insurance company rep said, at ABC Insurance Company, you have a choice. You can either put in $50 per exam, $75 per exam, or $100 per exam. And he goes, "I want to put in $100 per exam because I don't want to have anybody reach out of their pocket." This particular rep said, "Hey, there's nobody that's going to charge over $100, so you're good." So they implemented that change. During Thanksgiving, the business owner's daughter came back from Queen's University in Kingston, and they were just chatting, as fathers and daughters do, and talking about all sorts of things in university experience and so on. And then she goes, "Hey, can you mute Rocco, please? Thanks." And anyways, came back and said, "Hey, Dad, I had to get because I'm using the computer a lot, and I wanted to get my eyes checked, and I thought you said everything was covered, but I only got $100 back from a $120 exam." That's what the exam cost in Kingston at that time, was $120. I don't know what they did, but that's what it was. And she only got $100 reimbursement back. Well, the client went bananas and said, "This is nuts," and fired the advisor, fired the advisor, and fired the insurance company because they said it was going to be covered and it wasn't, and it was only covered up to a certain point. And you know what? That's not wasn't acceptable to him, and we were brought in because we could cover 100% of the vision care exams. Simple as that. So, you know, sometimes it's little things where the hurt is. It's little things, but those little things fester into big things, and that's why people get fired. What is the hurt in an employee benefit plan? Well, the hurt is personal and business pain caused by the plan. It could be emotional, financial, operational. You know, it's too rigid, repu reputational. You don't have the right insurance. It could be legal. All right, it's amazing all the things that can happen. But you know, reputational. Let's talk about that for a minute. We sell employee benefit programs. We have a benefit plan for our employees. We were one of the first people in Canada to sell, if not the first people in Canada to sell a group critical illness product. I wanted to make sure that all of our clients were aware of the this new product in the marketplace, the critical illness product. And you know what? I didn't put it in for our plan. I said I'll get around to it. I'll get around to it. Never got around to it. Kind of forgot about it. Never got around to it. I was telling everybody that they should buy this, but I didn't buy it myself. And then the worst thing happened. An employee came to us or came to me and said that he was sick and he had cancer. Um, and I went, holy shit. And he had a bad cancer and he ended up passing away. But we didn't have critical illness insurance in place. And from a reputational perspective, I felt horrible and it made us look bad. So it's real, you know. So when we think about what the hurt is in an employee benefit plan, it can be emotional, financial, operational, reputational, legal. But it's important to understand where it's coming from. So surface issues versus real hurt. Surface issues, rising premiums, claim issues, you know, complaints. But the real hurt is budget stress, right? The real hurt is unknown risks. The real hurt is loss of trust. Real hurt can be, you know, fear of making the wrong decision, right? And that, you know, so let's look at these things. Budget stress. It's not rising premiums, it's budget stress. Hey, the business might be in a cycle where they've got a significant amount of budget stress because they're building a new plant or they're building a new office or whatever it is that they're doing. They can have a lot of budget stress. If you don't ask the questions, you're not going to know about this budget stress. You're going to say, hey, yeah, you deserve an increase because these are the reasons why. Well, no, it's the budget stress that's causing the problem. Unknown risks, right? Loss of trust, fear of making the wrong decision. They've got no, you know, confidence in the advisor that they're dealing with. So they've got this fear of making the wrong decision. You know, unknown risks and loss of trust. That the loss of trust is the real reason why that example that I talked about vision care, they lost trust in the advisor and they lost trust in the. It wasn't about the vision care claim. It wasn't the claim issue that was the problem. It was the loss of trust. You know, the insurance company and the advisor said we're going to put it on $100 max, and you know what? That'll be good. All of a sudden, it wasn't good, and there was a loss of trust. That's why the insurance company got fired and the advisor got fired. So when we look at surface issues, we have to look what's behind those surface issues or underneath those surface issues to find out and determine what the real hurt is. Excuse me. Why you need to ask about the real hurt, to understand motivation, to determine urgency, and avoid solving the wrong problem. This is huge. Avoid solving the wrong problem. You know, it's some people or some advisors, and we've worked with advisors, you know, for years and years and years. And advisors think their job is often to find the lowest price. Oh my God, if someone comes in with another price and it's lower, I'm going to get fired. Oh no, right? No, it's not to find the lowest price. You know, we've got to understand what the hurt is with the client, and hurt's going to change. So it's important to talk about hurt, whether you've got a new prospect or you've got a client and you've had that client for 10 years, because that business is going to go through cycles and they're going to have different hurts at different times. But we need to know what the hurt is so we do not solve the wrong problem. We solve the right problem. Also, you know, when we understand and we ask questions about the hurt, we understand motivation and we understand urgency. But without a doubt, no hurt, no action. If you're just curious, yeah, not committed. Information, you're looking for information, generally speaking, there's no action. Comfort delays change. Comfort delays change. And I think as Canadians, we're also too damn polite. Especially if you go into a prospect's place, you've disturbed a prospect, you've got a meeting with them because either you've been introduced by one of their friends or whatever the circumstances in. You're in seeing a prospect and they go, yeah, sure, do a market survey. I don't really care, but do a market survey. I just want to get you out of my office. Here's the stuff, do a market survey. They're not committed. They're just curious. They're looking for information. They're not going to take any action, right? Because you're not asking the right questions. Without a doubt, comfort delays change. I think it's important to triage your prospects and clients. Some, as I just mentioned, sometimes prospects and clients are just too polite and they won't say no to a discussion or a quote, right? If you can't identify the hurt, there's likely no motivation for them to make a change. It's not worth spending a lot of time on. My favorite word, next, there's 450,000 businesses. Sure, do a quote. I don't really care. There's no commitment. There's no urgency. There's no hurt. We have to understand what the hurt is. It's about triaging your prospects. Again, if I had all the time back that I wasted in this business, knowing what I know now, I'd still have hair, right? It's as simple as that. But that's part of learning. And that's why we're all here today, right? It's picking up, as Joel said at the beginning, it's picking up something, just a little tidbit of something that makes it easier, right? But, sometimes clients and prospects are too polite. They won't, yeah, sure, do all this work, but I don't really care. Right? It's important to understand and triage your clients. Advisor versus vendor. Vendors, think about it. Vendors talk about features, they push products, and they lead with price. Trusted advisor uncovers what hurts. They create path to eliminate that hurt. What hurts? It hurts when I fall down the stairs. You know what we need to do? We need to shovel that driveway or that walkway, your stairs, and we need to put ice melt on it. So when you go down the stairs, you don't fall and it doesn't hurt. All right, it's as simple as that. When you don't want to just talk about features of a product, you just don't want to push products, you don't want to lead with price. You want to uncover what hurts and eliminate that pain. And when you ask these types of questions, when you ask questions about hurt, you move from features to impact. You move from features to impact. You understand urgency and priority. Key thing, understand urgency and priority. You avoid solving the wrong problem, right? You let the client articulate their business, their own needs, which builds trust, right? What do you want to do? You want to impact, you want priority, you know, you want to avoid solving the wrong problem, and you want trust, right? You're not a vendor. Vendors talk about features and push products and lead with price. You want impact, priority, trust. Those are the things that you want in a relationship. People don't buy benefit plans. People don't buy benefit plans. They don't wake up and go, hey, I think I'll buy a benefit plan today. I'm going to get the blue one with the yellow fringe. No. What do they really buy? They buy a promise that they want to make to their employees. They buy a promise they want to make to their employees. I was with an advisor yesterday morning, and we were talking to a client, and the client was asking some questions about risk. And we were using the word promise in this discussion. They were buying a promise that they want to make to their employees. They want to promise their employees are taken care of, but they want certain things in their benefit plan because they want to make a promise to their employees that makes sense in their mind. One of the things that they were talking about, the promise that they wanted to make, was they wanted to make sure that every employee had what's it called? Ozempic and that category of drugs available to them if they had diabetes, if they had blood sugar concerns. They didn't want to make it available to them for obesity, for weight loss. So it was interesting. They bought the promise that they wanted to make. We're not there to judge whether that makes sense or not. We're there to keep the promise that they want to make to their employees. They want to buy certainty. They want to buy control. They want to buy tax-effective compensation. They want to buy competitive attraction and retention tools, right? They really want to buy the promise they want to make. I was in a meeting years ago, probably about 10 or 15 years ago, and I was with a prospect and with the advisor. And the advisor was a little weak, I must admit that, but everybody needs to learn. But this advisor, we're in the meeting, and the advisor just starts rambling on, and you could see the client getting really upset. He's going, this is a waste of time. This is a waste of time. And he's got his arms crossed, and he's sitting back in his chair. And I don't know where this came from, but I said, whoa, 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 everybody stop here for a minute. And I said, what are we talking about here? And the client looked at me and he was still really upset and said, we're talking about health insurance and life insurance and drug cards and so on, right? And I said, no, no, we're not. And again, no idea where this came from. Somewhere in the back of my head, I said, we're talking about a promise. We're talking about a promise that you are making to your employees. What is it that you want to promise? Here's the pen. Tell us. And it was interesting because all of a sudden you saw this particular business owner's body language change. He undid his arms. He kind of leaned forward. The light went off in his head, and he goes, geez, I'm the business owner. I can promise anything I want. From that point on, I've been using that line, promise. It's such a powerful word. If I promise you something, Joel Gadesky, you're on the call. If I promise that I'm going to pick you up at 10 o'clock and I show up at 11, I've broken my promise. I'm late. That's no good. Right? If I promise my employees that I'm going to pay for their routine dental expenses up to a maximum of $1,500, I got to keep that promise. It's as simple as that. So people don't buy benefit plans. They buy promises that they're making to their employees. They buy certainty, they buy control, they buy tax effective compensation, and they buy competitive attention and retention and attraction solutions. So starting the conversation, ask what the hurt is. Be bold and direct. Before making any recommendations, you need to understand what's really driving this for your client or your prospect. Quit playing guessing games. I've seen so many, 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 advisors guess what the hurt is, and they're wrong. They waste time. It reduces profitability. Every client has different hurts. They change over time. Start the conversation, or the conversation never stops. Keep asking questions. What's the hurt? I went to MedCan early in January. My wife and I went to MedCan. Um, and it's a great service. They have these executive medicals. We don't have a family doctor, so we don't have a choice. We have to go to MedCan to get our routine medical care. But we went to MedCan, and you have this whole battery of tests, and they do all these blood tests, and they do hearing tests and ultrasounds and all sorts of stuff. And then you go and you meet with the doctor, and you're spending 30 or 45 minutes with the doctor, and you're having this conversation, and the doctor says, we're going to review all of these test results, and I'm going to tell you how you are with benchmarking and so on. But before we do that, what hurts? That's what he says to me. What hurts? Is there anything that hurts? Is there anything that's on your mind? Anything that's immediate that we need to discuss right now? And I said, as a matter of fact, there is something that hurts. I don't know if you can see it, but I smashed my finger and my nails gone all black, but I'm not wearing, anyways, I smashed it. It's all black. He goes, what'd you do? And I said, I smashed my finger in between a brick wall and a refrigerator as I was moving the refrigerator. He goes, well, yeah, don't do that anymore. That probably hurts. So avoid moving refrigerators around brick walls, joking aside. But he asked the question, what's the hurt? It's a simple question. Yeah, you can use it in a medical perspective. Why can't you use it in a benefit perspective, a business perspective? What's the hurt? Be bold and direct. Don't pussyfoot around it. Use real English language. What's the hurt? I can't make any recommendations. I don't know if I can help you, Mr. Prospect or Mr. Client, unless you tell me what the hurt is. It's as simple as that. I can play guessing games, but it's wrong. I want to go on vacation. If I don't tell my professional travel agent, who's also my daughter-in-law, right? But if I don't tell her what Michelle and I want to do for vacation, I don't tell her what the hurt is, right? She might recommend places that are totally irrelevant and offside. Hey, I'm really cold. I'm sick and tired of the snow. I want to go somewhere warm. What do you recommend? The hurt is I want to warm up my bones and get some vitamin D on my body, right? So let's stop playing guessing games. Let's have real conversations with our clients and our prospects, right? And ask what the real hurt is. Common employer hurts over the years. I don't understand what I'm paying for. I spend 30 minutes a year looking at the stuff, and I really don't understand it. Because the other advisor comes in with a 46-page renewal report that has graphs and has, bar charts on it and so on, but I don't understand what it's paying for. Employers aren't happy despite what I spend. Employees aren't happy despite what I spend. I spent all this money, but the employees keep on complaining about it. The renewals feel like they're out of control. They're just out of control because of the lack of understanding. I don't trust the data because I don't understand it. it's usually lack the common hurt from an employer's perspective is lack of understanding. I don't understand what I'm paying for. Somebody comes in and talks about this voodoo math, but I don't get it. You got to be able to explain something really quickly in a concise way that they understand it. You know, what is really driving this? What is really driving this? What's your, and I like to ask questions a little bit differently, and we're not talking about benefits. Let's talk about their business. Business owners, clients, prospects love talking about their business. It's as simple as that. They love talking about their business. What's the biggest immediate challenge in your business? Not your benefit plan, in your business. And listen without interrupting. What's your biggest challenge? If I asked any one of you on this call right now, what is your biggest immediate business challenge? We could have a conversation that would last 45 minutes, without a doubt. What's your biggest immediate challenge in your business right now? And think about that when you're looking at your business. I already told you what mine is. Mine is profitable growth, right? But that's our biggest challenge right now, profitable growth. What's your biggest challenge? It's a great question to ask a client or a prospect. And even if you've had the client for 10 years, you got to ask it every single time you meet with them. What's your biggest challenge right now? What's your biggest immediate business challenge? And it's always about their business, not about employee benefits. You got to make it about their business because the business challenges are what drives um, everything in their business, including their employee benefit program. And we've got to learn to speak less and listen more. What's the biggest challenge in your business? Think about that. Uncovering the hurt. Then you ask questions like, what's most frustrating about this challenge that you have? Well, it's out of my control, or it's in my control, or my employees are doing this, or I've got to develop that, right? When does this become a headache? Oh man, it's already a migraine. If someone says, I said, you ask somebody the question, what hurts and, in your business, what's your immediate challenge, right? And then you say, hey, when does this become a headache? And you're going, oh my God, it's a migraine. What does that say? Urgency. We got to deal with this right now. What's not working the way it should? These are just examples of questions, uncovering the hurt. Does this keep you up at night? And again, does this keep you up at night? Yes, no. You know, I woke up the other morning at 3:30 in the morning. Just woke up for whatever reason. And then I start thinking, profitable growth, profitable growth. What are we doing to get profitable growth? So yeah, it keeps me up at night. But their answers are going to lead you. Their answers are going to lead you in a direction. My business is very, very busy right now. We're having a hard time keeping up. Sounds like you need to hire more staff. Ask more questions about this. You've got all this business. Is this a blip because of a market change, or is this ongoing? Right? Hey, you need to increase your staff. You need to increase your capacity. What's going on? Let's talk more about that. But their answers are going to lead you in a direction to ask great questions, right? And it's about quantifying the hurt, right? Is there a financial impact, management distraction, HR workload, retention risk, attraction risk? And it's interesting because when we're quantifying the hurt, first of all, we uncover the hurt and then we're quantifying it to see how big that hurt is. Is it a headache or is it a migraine or is it just, coming on that it might be a headache? It's about quantifying that hurt. The financial impact. Hey, we're coming up to a big expansion right now. We're building a new plant or building a new office or whatever it is. One of the things at the Benefits Trust we're doing is we're building a new office. So in the next probably 6 months, our office is going to move from our current location to a new location in the same town, Fonthill, but we're building a new office. There's an outlay of cash for that, right? We're building this new office. We want it to be great, right? Great for our staff. So that's something that's, a concern right now for us. But COVID's a huge, COVID was a huge concern. One of our larger clients, I'm also very close with this particular individual, is a friend of ours, but they had a significant financial impact on 2000 and on March 13th, 2020. He left on Friday and they had 100%. They had no issues with revenue. They had no issues with revenue. They had 100% of their people paying. It was great. on because of the nature of their business. On the 16th, Monday, the 16th, March 16th, 2020, they woke up, the whole world was closed down. They went from 100% revenue to 0% revenue. They had no revenue over a weekend. Yeah, you think there's a financial impact? Oh my God, was there a financial impact? Right? Tariffs, something new. There's all this uncertainty. We were working with a prospect and they tapped the brakes. They tapped the brakes. The advisors, uncovered, what the hurt was at that time, and all of a sudden, new hurt came in and took over, and they tapped the brakes on making any changes to anything because of the uncertainty of the tariffs. Right? We're still in the wings, but we haven't got to go ahead because they're not making any decisions until these tariffs get straightened around for a long term. Right? So there's financial impacts in their business, because of a whole host of reasons, and they change over time. They can change very quickly or they can change slowly. Right? Management distraction. Yeah, we've got a new CFO, right? We've got a new HR person, whatever it is, right? But there's management distraction. We can't move ahead with this project, or we don't have a hurt right now because our hurt is the new CFO is getting herself up to speed or himself up to speed. HR workload. We're implementing a new employee handbook across the board, and we're negotiating a new contract with our unionized employee. We're too busy to look at this stuff. What's the hurt? And it's quantifying that hurt. Hey, now's the right time, or now is not the right time. Retention risk. Hey, we've got this great solution, we've got this great product, we've got this great widget, but we're losing all of our staff to, our competitors. Get a retention issue. What's going on? Let's take a look, right? Attraction issues, etc. But it's important to uncover the hurt, but also quantify the hurt because that's going to give you a lot of answers, and it's going to help you not waste time with your clients or waste your clients' time. And then creating urgency. Hurts create urgency. Great question to ask is what happens if nothing changes over the next few days, the next few months, or the next few years, right? Depending on how you want to phrase that question. But it's a terrific question because it creates a sense of urgency. When I was talking to that particular client about when they got, COVID hit them and they had zero revenue and woke up on Monday morning with zero revenue, I said, what happens if nothing changes over the next few days or months? He goes, we probably have 5 or 6 months of money in the bank, so to speak, to keep the business going. After that, we're done. So we got a 6-month window here. And I said, fantastic. I hear that. That makes nothing but sense to me. I'm surprised you have 6 months. That's great. But let's change your benefit plan right now to reflect this change in what's going on in the environment. And let's reduce your costs by 80% right now, right? Today. Right. So we're able to, create, he was able, in this particular case, this client was demonstrating what the urgency was. And we were able to work with him, and he appreciated that work and valued that work that was done. So it's creating that urgency. What happens if nothing changes over the next few days or months or years? Right. The other thing is make it personal. Oh my God, make it personal. Why is this important for you to get this right? A terrific question. You're making it personal. Why is this important for you to get this right? You're sitting there as a business owner. It's important for me to get this right because of my reputation, because of my emotions, because of my legal hurt that I've got, because of my financial hurt. It's important that I get this right so I can keep the doors open and keep the employees happy, right? If you can determine what the hurt is and make it personal, it's the true decision driver. And again, we're not talking about benefits here, right? We're talking about urgency. We're talking about the hurt. We're talking about quantifying the hurt. We're talking about, putting a sense of urgency on it. And we're talking about making it personal. This is going to drive the decision. You're separating yourself from everybody else out there, and it's going to drive the decision forward. Be bold and ask direct questions. Be bold and ask direct questions. This is a great question. Are you prepared to fire your current advisor if I can eliminate your hurt? Great question to ask, and then you shut up. Are you prepared to fire your current advisor if I can eliminate your hurt? You said it was personal. You said it's timely. Are you prepared to fire your existing advisor if I can eliminate this problem for you? And then you watch. You're using plain English. You're asking a very direct question, right? You shut up to listen and watch because communication isn't just about words. It can be about their body language. They go, this has been a great conversation and this is fantastic, but oh my gosh, yeah, I'm sure I could I'm sure I could fire my existing advisor if he solved this problem. Well, they can't because their existing advisor is their daughter-in-law, for example, or whatever it is, right? But you watch and you say, I don't think that's the case. I don't know if we can work together, right? But if you ask someone that question, are you prepared to fire your current advisor if I can eliminate your hurt? And they look you right in the eyes and they say, absolutely, because this is really hurting me. And you know what? This is a problem that I need to solve. I don't have any relationship with my advisor, and he's never had a conversation like we've just had. So absolutely, I'm prepared to do that. You know, so different messages, but communication isn't just words. It's important to ask that question, but be bold and ask direct questions. You know, locking it in, locking it in. I like to say, keep it simple. So if I understand you correctly, Mr. Prospect or Mr. Client, the real issue isn't just increase in premiums. It's understanding how your costs relate to your budget, for example, right? But you get the client to confirm that in their own words. Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what I'm looking for. Great. Then you leave the meeting and you say, thank you very much for the time that you extended to me in your office today or over Zoom or whatever it was. What I heard you say is this: we are creating a solution and we'll report back to you, in the next 10 days, whatever it is. But don't overcomplicate it. Keep it simple. We're going to do a market survey and we're going to, blah, 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 and see if we can save you. Like, oh, we're going to solve this problem. You told me what your problem is. We're going to solve it. You told me what hurts. We're going to eliminate that hurt. Hey, we're going to survey 46 different insurance companies and service suppliers, and we're going to lock up the marketplace. No, we're going to solve your hurt. We're going to eliminate your hurt. Keep it simple. Let's talk about transitions or transition to solutions. If we could reduce the pressure and give you more control, are these things that, would you like to explore this option? Again, you're asking that checking question. Yeah, I want to explore this option. I want this hurt to go away. Absolutely. Great. Right? It's transition to the solutions. But it's not forgetting about the hurt. Reiterate the hurt, asking those checking questions. Explain how your solution solves their hurt. Make it very clear when delivering your solution. Mr. Clyde, Mr. Prospect, one of the things that you said was cash flow was a big issue right now because of COVID. So here's what I suggest that we do. We're going to change your employee benefit plan. We're going to just keep the life insurance and the disability insurance going. So if somebody, God forbid, runs into a problem right now, a catastrophic problem, they're covered. You're able to deliver them a check or continue their paycheck. But what we're going to do is, because no one can go to the dentist and no one can go to the physiotherapist because of COVID, what we're going to do is we're going to reduce your health premiums by 40%, 50%, and we're going to reduce your dental premiums by 100% right now. We're just going to put those on pause. If someone has an emergency dental, problem, we'll still pay the claim, but we'll make it happen. Right. So all of a sudden we're reducing the cost of their employee benefit program by, 70% or whatever it was. But hey, let's ask reiterate the hurt, ask checking questions. If we can solve this problem and reduce your cost by 70%, we want to make it very clear that we're delivering that solution. Based on what you have told me, Mr. Client, this is the direction we should go in. Really powerful English. This is the direction we should go in. What does that say? We is, first of all, you and I. We should go in. We're leading the client. This is the direction I think we should go in. By reducing your contributions by 70%, we're going to solve part of your hurt or a lot of your hurt. And, you don't have to think about this when solving the rest of the problems. We're going to take care of this. We're going to move in this direction together. We are leading the client. We are leading the client. And I think that's critical. As advisors, as opposed to just a vendor, hey, we did a market survey and found 10% savings here. So, here you go. Or here are 16 options to reduce your costs. Which one do you want? Right? No, this is the direction I think we should go based on your specific hurt. It's a powerful, powerful way to speak. Understanding the hurt helps you as the advisor. Sometimes, it saves you time from working on things what you think the client wants. You spend hours trying to cut costs and they don't want that. Hey, we can show you a way to cut your costs. Geez, you had a 20% increase in your premiums at this renewal. So in preparation for this meeting, Mr. Client, I went out and found a solution where it's 5% cheaper. So I think what we should do is not pay the 20%. We should actually reduce your cost by five. And you know what? We're going to move everybody, your 73 employees, we're going to move them over from XYZ insurance company to ABC insurance company. And the client's going, I don't want to do that. This is a waste of time. That's not my hurt. My hurt is we want to increase benefits because we got a retention issue. And they're just going to throw you out of the office. But you've spent a whole bunch of time doing this market survey for no reason at all. What does that do? It wastes your time. It cuts down on your profitability for that case. Hours spent trying to cut costs, and they don't want that. Clients aren't always looking for the lowest price. Talking about industry trends and generic points right away is impersonal. Talk about the hurt. You may feel smart. The client doesn't see that. They don't understand what you're talking about. And they don't care about it because you know what? They think about this for 30 minutes, 30 minutes a year. The other thing is we have prospects or clients, advisors that come to us and they go, we need 17 different options because this client, he's not going to accept this. He's not going to accept this renewal. We need 17 different options. And I go, what does your client want? Well, I haven't asked him yet, but I can't get caught flat-footed. I need 17 different options to go in there first. So we're spending a lot of time, forget about us spending a lot of time doing this, but the advisor is spending a lot of time why don't you just ask the client the question, hey, you're going to get an increase in your cost for these reasons, but what hurts? Like, what is the most important? Okay, client retention or employee retention. Great. So what we have got to look at is some employee retention strategies. Terrific. Okay, we'll come back to you with that. Instead of, cutting costs and cutting benefits, hey, they're looking at employee retention strategies. Let's put in a flexible healthcare spending account, whatever it is. But you spend less time on fluff that makes no sense and cuts down on the profitability. Understanding what the hurt is, quantifying the hurt, making it personal, creating that urgency is what's important. Right? Add value. Anybody can find the answers online with AI, you know, but they just don't know the right questions. Rob, you were putting slides together. Tell me the story that you shared about these slides.
Yeah,
With AI.
certainly. So I find images on Google Images, and then sometimes they're not exactly what I want. So I put them into Chat GPT, and there was one that had copyright stuff below and a bunch of different colors. So I said, can you remove the copyright and add in these different colors and rejig it? And Chat GPT came back to me and said, I can't remove copyright because that's legal. And I said, okay. So then I put it back in again and said, can you make me a very similar image that has this is not with the colors I want? And said, certainly, give me one in a few seconds. So my point being with that is all the answers are out there, but we as advisors are the ones that ask the appropriate questions. I just tweaked it ever so slightly and got what I wanted. So that's the kind of things that we need to do when we're talking to our clients.
Yep. And thanks, Rob, for sharing that. I appreciate that. But it's separate yourself from generic advisors who only talk about price and use buzzwords. Clients think about this for 30 minutes a year. So you got an opportunity. You got an opportunity to make an impact. You get an opportunity to ask the right questions. If you ask the right questions, you're going to get the answers that you're looking for. And the answers are going to show you urgency and they're going to show you, how it affects them personally, etc. People love to talk about themselves, so shut up and listen. Simple as that, right? They can find all the answers. How do I reduce my benefit costs? You can type that in to AI and find an answer. They don't need you. They don't need you at all, right? All the answers are out there. They just don't know the right questions to ask. You know, what's the biggest hurt in your business right now? What keeps you up at 3 o'clock in the morning? Right? Not talking about benefits. We're talking about the promise they want to make their employees. It's about adding value and real value. Key takeaway, diagnose before you prescribe. It's simple as that. When you go to the doctor diagnoses your high blood pressure before he gives you high blood pressure medication. If the doctor doesn't diagnose and says, yeah, you're 61 years old, you're fat, and you're bald, Rob, we think that you need, let's choose one today. We think that you need toenail fungus prescription. So that's what we're going to prescribe today. Well, they haven't even looked at my feet. Right? You got to diagnose before you prescribe. If you went to a doctor and the doctor said that, you go, yeah, we're out of here. Like, I got to get out of here. This is nuts. But if there's no hurt, there's no urgency. Simple as that. If there's no hurt, there's no urgency. If there's no urgency, there's no decision. Clarity creates confidence. Use plain language. What hurts? What hurts? Diagnose before you prescribe. If you get anything from this presentation today, it's this slide right here. Diagnose before you prescribe. No hurt, no urgency. No urgency, no decision. Hey, I dropped off this proposal for this prospect. It's great. It saves them 15%. Yeah, no urgency, no decision. Or the decision is we're going to shelve this and we'll, circle back in 6 months because they've got no urgency. Clarity creates confidence. Use plain English. Questions, ideas, discussions. We've got a few minutes, but we spent close to an hour together already. I see there's been some chat in the chat box, but let me stop sharing this. Does anybody have any thoughts, questions, ideas? Am I offside? Am I crazy? Am I nuts? Anybody have any thoughts, ideas, questions that they want to share? Joel, my friend Joel.
Rob, you're dead on that part there. It also applies in other parts like life insurance and all that too. And I once remember going to a webinar a few years ago, and they said, ask the client or prospect on a scale of 1 to 10, what's the urgency priority of what we're talking about?
Yeah.
And the client will come back and say 4, 3, 2, 1, 10, whatever. And when it becomes a 1, then you're in business. And I remember very distinctly a few years ago, I asked that question, and a client said, you're number 7. I said, fine. About 2 years later, I got a phone call. You moved up to number 1. When can we meet?
Yeah.
So,
but Joel, it's interesting. It's interesting you say that because if you've ever had an interaction with a first responder, right? Because you've had an accident or something, they go, okay, Joel, what's your pain level right now? One being, very little pain, and 10 being the worst pain you've ever had in your life. It's one of the very first questions that they ask, right? And in any first aid training, that's what they teach you. And you say, hey, my pain level's a 1. Okay, we don't have to worry about this too much right now. Or my pain level's a 10. Okay, we need to deal with something. I fell and dislocated my shoulder on the ski hill years ago, and I was in huge pain, right? I had a doctor, because of the pain level that I had a doctor come to me on the ski hill and give me morphine on the ski hill, right? Because of the pain level I had. So it's discussing that pain.
So Rob, I'll jump a bit more on that as well. Using the medical analogy, the first thing they do is they see what's in pain. And once they determine what's in pain, then you do a rapid body kind of scan and you look to see if there's anything else in pain. So once we find something that's in pain with the client, it doesn't mean we stop asking questions. We found one thing, but then you keep asking everything else. Because in medical, if something's in a lot of pain, you still look around the rest of the body because the one pain could be masking the other pain. So just because you find the one hurt doesn't mean there's not another one they don't even know about. So as an advisor, it's great to have maybe a template and a list of all the questions that you should ask, because just because you find the one doesn't mean you should stop. There's could be other ones out there.
And Rob, that's a great point. And using that example that I was just using when I fell and dislocated my shoulder, they were also asking me the nature of my fall and how I fell, and they were asking witnesses, and I think you were there with me, but how I fell and so on. They were concerned that I had a broken arm as well, but they couldn't tell, so they were treating me for all of that. Anyways, what's the hurt? Diagnose before you prescribe. We spent an hour together. Thank you all very much. We'll stick around for a few minutes if anybody has any other questions or comments or something more specific. Mike, you're going to send out some CE credits, and you're going to send out 101 great questions and some other stuff, which is great. Check out our website, thebenefitstrust.com, because we are going to have future Zoomcasts, and I'm trying to remember what our Zoomcast is next month. Rob, do you remember off the top of your head?
1 second here.
Anyways, we're going to have future Zoomcasts. Rob will tell you about those in a second. We're going to send you a real short survey. Fill that out. Tell us how we did today. Tell us how we did today, and tell us how we can better do it tomorrow. And as well as that, you're going to get signed up for a Trusted Advisor newsletter. We are open for business. The Benefits Trust is open for business. We have inventory on the shelves that we got to get rid of, and we're open for business. We're going to reach out to you and say hello. We're going to reach out to you and say thank you. If we're doing business together, thank you for your continued support. If we're not doing business together, I ask the question, what's the hurt? What
And
can we help you solve?
and next month we're going to be doing Breaking the Trend: Smarter Ways to Manage High Cost Drugs. So we got 3 different dates for that. So check out our website, benefitstrust.com, and we'd love to see you.
Thank you all very much. It's sorry, it's 1 o'clock and we are done. Have a great day. Enjoy the rest of the week, and I wish you nothing but continued success and good selling.